Yep.
War isn't easy. Although you may not have physical wounds, often you get many wounds on the inside, in the mind. W.D. Earhart, in his poem, Coaching Track During Time of War, kind of delves into this idea. It's not a traditional war poem, you know, a battle in Vietnam or some sort of crazy heroic story. It seems much simpler. It seems, wait, he's talking about war? He starts out the poem by going into setting up this scenario. We've got a coach, and he's got his boys out running an exercise. So I'm just going to go ahead and recite some of the stanzas as we go through to give you the picture that he's presenting of just how hard it can be to deal with some of these internal struggles that soldiers have when they come back from war. The boys are running suicides on the football field today. 10-yard increments out to the 50 and back again. Push-ups in between. It's 30 degrees, but they sweat like it's the summer in Baghdad. Curse like soldiers. Swear to God they'll see you burn in hell. So his first stanza kind of presents this idea. It shows how words can be important. He's just sitting here, he's a coach, he's back. We get the sense he's a veteran of some sort, has experience with war. But he just thinks, you know, they're running an exercise, and it's called suicides. And just kind of that word kind of starts triggering back these ideas. He starts seeing in the boys this kind of spirit, this ethos of warriors. It starts to make him think. In 2012, the Army had 185 suicides, which is a pretty big number. But it's even crazier when you think they only had 176 killed in combat. Wow. Puts it in perspective. He mentions the heat in Baghdad, which often exceeds 120 degrees in the summer. He sees that in his boys' faces as they're like running wild, going hard. And so all these memories just start coming back to him. He starts feeling like he's there again. But he goes on further as he describes how he just sees this warrior ethos in his track team. He says, you could fall in love with boys like these, so earnest, so eager, so ready to do whatever you ask, full of themselves and the world. So he just sees this attitude, I'm willing to do what you ask. This exercise, it sucks, that's why it's called suicides. But I'll do it, you said do it. They're so eager, they're so willing. They think that's what matters. Working hard, obeying what authority tells you. But not only does he just see this, you know, kind of get reminded of the situations and the soldiers themselves, he's also reminded of all the struggles of war. He goes on to say, it's not that simple. How do I tell them it's not that simple? How do I tell them question it all, question everything, question a coach, question the president, question the young dead soldiers who come back nightly in aluminum boxes, an army of shadows that really never gets seen. So what he's talking about here is he sees this attitude, it brings back some of these memories, and it brings back this struggle of dealing with war. While he makes these references that kind of suggest Gulf War, the heat in Baghdad. So it kind of puts in perspective of our modern context, even though he's traditionally known for his Vietnam writing. He himself served 3 years in Vietnam as a Marine, so that's kind of where his background comes from. And we know from Vietnam, there was a lot of that same sort of struggle. And I think he's kind of paralleling it with the struggle we see today. And that, there's this public outcry of like, wait, is this worth it? I mean, I don't know, there's different causes, we do want to help them out, we do want to promote freedom, but at what cost? And so he's kind of saying, challenge it. Be willing to challenge it. Don't just accept what people tell you. Question. Have a questioning attitude. Ask those soldiers. I mean, you obviously can't. But he's trying to bring back to mind that often in these long, prolonged wars, kind of like the Gulf Wars have been, as well as Vietnam, you tend to kind of forget the actual cost. You forget, how every family or friend is impacted when when someone, doesn't come back. And so he's trying to bring that back to their minds. But this whole conversation is going on in his own head. And he goes on to finish out the poem saying, but you just say, good job, call it a day. And then he says he's standing there as the light fades away, alone. Alone with these phantoms in his mind, circling the track like weary athletes on a race that doesn't have a finish, no finish line. And so what he's pointing to there is, so he doesn't actually say any of these thoughts, he just bottles it up. And that kind of really speaks to the heart of issues like PTSD. A lot of times people, they don't want to tell other people, I want to seem normal. I don't want to just seem like I'm a freak who came back from war. I don't need help. They can't help me. It's just a personal problem. It's my own issue. Statistics suggest that around 40% of people who are really struggling with PTSD don't ever seek help. And in a way, I really think that really ties in with those suicide statistics as well. And I think Earhart's kind of tying that together as well. Those two ideas. But he doesn't seek help. He doesn't talk to the boys about it. He just says, good day, go home, guys. And then he just feels like he's standing alone in the fading light. He feels the darkness. He feels the solitude. And he feels like he's just alone with these phantoms. Like athletes, who there's no finish line. They're just dragging on. And so he feels like it's a never-ending problem. And so I think this poem really kind of captures a bit of an essence of really that struggle. He just presents a simple scenario. It's just a coach running a track practice. But he just shows how it can, just little things, just like a word, can really just trigger people back into some really hard memories and some hard feelings. And that we as a society can do a better job of helping them not feel alone, not feel like they're in the darkness. So I think that's kind of the big takeaway that I got, but I think it is a message that Earhart is kind of portraying here of, hey, this is a problem, this is an issue, and it still needs work. We haven't solved it yet. So that kind of concludes my thoughts on W.D. Earhart's poem, Coaching Track During Time of War. Any questions?